What careers attract the biggest jerks? Car sales. I tried it. Couldn't stand the guys I was working with. I did it for a little over a year. Hated it so much. I'd only meant for it to be a temporary gig after a rough patch. But I just couldn't find a good job. It became a running joke among my coworkers and managers that if I came in cleanly shaven, then I had a job interview. There were some guys that were dicks, but for the most part, I liked the guys I worked with once I learned to ignore the alpha male facade. There was this one guy, we'll call him Mark, whom I really hated in the beginning. Just a straight up dickhead. He hated the new guys and had his own personal rule that he wouldn't talk to a fellow salesperson until they'd gotten through their 3-month probationary period. You'd say hi to him and he would look the other way. He was the top salesman for most of the time I was there. As I got to know him better, I started to see how pathetic and sad his life was. He didn't really have any friends. And another salesman had a story about how, when he had worked at a Verizon store in the mall, Mark came in to buy some shit for his phone. Then, Mark asked the guy if he could help him pick out some new clothes because he seemed good with girls. I laughed with all of the rest of the guys, but couldn't help feeling sorry for him. Soon, the guy started asking me to hang out, but I always had excuses, and I felt guilty about it, too. After I quit, he'd text me from time to time. I sent a few referrals his way, but we never hung out. I ended up getting married a year after I'd last worked at the dealership. Mark's sister was one of the planners at our venue, so Mark said he'd work as a server at my wedding to make sure we were taken care of. I sort of ignored it, but sure enough, he was there, and to his credit, he was great. Anything we needed, he'd get it. He even picked up about $100 worth of pizza for the bridal party at midnight and refused to let us pay. From then on, I'd send anybody interested in a car his way. I still didn't really want to hang out with him. He always gave off creep vibes, but more on that in a bit. But I wanted to do something nice for him when I could. About a year ago, he messaged me asking if I was interested in buying gift cards to his new girlfriend's massage business. I declined, but told him that I was happy that he found somebody, and I meant it. He talked about how great she was and how she'd helped him get his shoulder right. A few months later, my dad, one of the people I'd referred to him, sent me a link to a local news article. I opened the link and saw Mark's mugshot. He'd been arrested for kidnapping and sexual assault after crashing his car in a high-speed chase that ended hundreds of miles away. I initially insisted that it must have been some sort of misunderstanding, but as the details came out, it was pretty sick. He'd broken into this woman's house, the masseuse, and waited for her to return home after she dropped her kids off at the bus. Then, he beat her, tied her up, and took her to his mother's, who was away on vacation, house. He chained her to a workout bench and continued to beat and rape her. He left the house with her still chained up. She escaped, dragging the bench to the driveway, naked. He's now awaiting trial on kidnapping, aggravated sexual assault, and attempted first-degree murder. That turned so hard I'm pretty sure I can sue you for giving me whiplash. In regards to medical specialties, surgeons have a reputation for being arrogant. I've only had one surgery in my adult life. He was a specialist. He did hands. I wouldn't say the guy was arrogant. I would underscore say that he was a complete medical techie with no people skills at all. I started thinking of him as the software engineer who sits in the back and turns out great code, but doesn't like talking to people. I'm sure there are others like him in surgery, body geeks who love the technical aspects, but don't relate to people. My surgeon could talk to the hand, just not people in general. Televangelists. That's a scam, not a career. There really needs to be stricter laws for con artists and grifters. Televangelists, psychics, multi-level marketers, etc. are given way too much freedom considering they are obvious criminals. Law. I'm in law school, and it seems like the vast majority of people are jerks. To put it politely, I keep hearing that my faculty is one of the better ones in the country, and that people are much worse than others. It literally feels like high school, only with people who think they're the most clever humans on earth. Sounds like when I used to get stuck in upper level biology classes with the pre-med students. Are they all viciously competitive and backstabbing too? I took BO and ended up in biochem lab with some pre-dental school kids. I turned to the guy working under the hood to my right and asked him a question on which glassware to use. He wouldn't tell me, then laughed at me when I used the wrong shit. Shoulder just asked the nice tar instead of that grease ball. Sales. The best salesman I know is one of the nicest guys I know. When asked what his secret is, he told me it's simple. The more you serve and help people, the more you sell. I watched this man take money out of his own pocket multiple times to lower the price of the products we were selling to help people out, and he outsold everyone. That's the secret, honestly. A proper salesperson is there to help the customer, and the reason they succeed is because people want to help someone that helped them. They'll happily recommend you to friends and family. They'll actually listen to your professional advice and opinion. And most importantly, they'll go out of their way to find you next time they make a purchase. When I first started sales, I used to have customers bring me food when they'd realized I'd worked through my lunch break to help them. I'd have some that'd literally continue to see me for help, even when I switched companies. It made me pretty much immediately successful at nearly every position I worked, and I had lots of wonderful people willing to take time out of their days just to talk to me. I don't think I could ask for more. You help people, they help you too. In my experience, weirdly, the fire department, younger firefighters in some cases, are some of the biggest douchebags that I've met while working. Not as big of an issue at all with older firefighters. They are generally super cool. My brother-in-law became a volunteer and is now full-time. I can tell you with the utmost certainty that he did it for the reputation and status. Like, I don't think I've seen him wear something other than his fire department shirt since he got the job. At his birthday party there was some more of his coworkers there, and there was only one person dressed for an off-the-clock party among friends. I've literally never seen a doctor show up to a party wearing their white coat or scrubs or an "I'm a doctor" shirt, but with firefighters it's like they don't own anything else. My father is a volunteer firefighter for a rural town too small for a gas station. They all own t-shirts and sweatshirts with town name fire department. My father rotates through them like any other shirt, but tends not to wear them in town. Most of the other older guys don't wear them around, but it's 50 over 50 for the younger ones. Influencers. Influencer seems more like a phase than a career. Seems more like a period in their life, then they drop off the face of the planet. Anything that involves making money off persuasion, because a harmless write-off manipulation and lack of information is persuasion rather than lies. I think jerks are everywhere. It's just that in a position of power they get revealed. Well, if it isn't something smart to read today, you are correct. Chefs in big hotels. Nah, they're just psychos. Chefs anywhere. It's one of the most stressful jobs in the world, and the only people who can withstand the stress long term seem to be mostly assholes. Kinda like surgeons. Reddit mods. Not really a job. They don't get paid. But many are jerks. This is why it attracts jerks. They love being in power, just for the sake of power. If it was a paid job, we would see more normal people as mods. I say this as someone in the field, but teaching seems to attract gossip hounds and people with a martyr complex. My wife taught for 3 decades. I have seen a lot of the gossip BS. The fascinating part for me was seeing how many school counselors were batshit, certifiable, flat out crazy. There were many wild situations with that group over the years. Minimum wage job managers. Most likely older people that are grumpy all the time and smell like cigarettes. I think this is just them being jaded from being stuck in that position for probably their entire life. Rather than being a jerk from the start, you either die a SpongeBob or live long enough to become a Squidward. Politics. To be fair, they're basically professional liars. Yeah, right. They're almost all lawyers. Nursing. Not all, but the jerky ones are such a-holes. You would be surprised how many physicians are terrible people. Not surprised at all. I've dealt with many doctors over the last decade or so. They tend to be arrogant, dismissive, and terrible listeners. Both my in-laws have M.D. at the end of their names. My first impression of them definitely fit the bill. They were polite, but it seemed shallow or even fake. To some degree, I felt like a bug under a microscope, unimportant unless I presented a threat. Granted, I was dating their oldest daughter. Close bracket. Over the past few years, I've learned a lot more about them, and have heard some stories about the amount of crap that their jobs can put them through on a daily basis. A lot of it seems to be a defensive layer they put up when dealing with the general public, and you have to work your way through it over time. When their scrubs are on, they're fantastic doctors who care about their patients. But there's a limit to how nice one can be when it's the 5th person that day who's just after more opioids. Marrying into that family has given me a much deeper appreciation for medical workers as a whole. There are certainly bad ones. For sure, though. Aviation. Interesting. Could you elaborate? Where they trained? Whose daddy has more money? What part of the country / city / neighborhood? Being a super shitty worker on the ramp because they feel they are above that type of work. Acting like they are superior because they are a pilot. Any chance to state they are a pilot they will tell you. Extremely entitled and not humble. On the flip side, there are extremely humble and hard-working pilots that lived on cans of beans, that remember where they came from, and don't forget that even once they are a captain at the airlines. Software engineers. Damn the elitism and gatekeeping is so unreal. Agreed. Try posting something on Xcaria questions and see the meanest, nastiest replies ever. If you cannot code a Q implementation of a doubly linked list with binary search insertion sort in long time in less than 20 minutes on a whiteboard, while an interviewer is looking over your shoulder the entire time and asking you to explain every step you're doing, I suggest you find a different field, sir. Apostrophe. That's the kind of crap you see in that sub. I've heard that the CEO position has the largest percentage of antisocial people. This is C-suite in general. I think you just have to be a certain type of person to make it that far. Assassin. They're willing to kill anyone for any reason just to get cash. I think he meant legal jobs. Pretty sure governments use legal assassins too. Remember, it's only illegal if you are not the state doing it or you haven't bribed state officials yet. Ceramic art, weirdly enough, full of uber douches. Ceramic engineer here. The engineering side is way more fun. You should join us. In my experience, any job that gives people power over others, police, army, security guard, border control, even carriage drivers. Now, of course 99% of them are not jerks and went into that kind of job to protect and serve others, but there is a minority of people on a power trip. Absolutely, the common denominator is having power over people. Some people go into it explicitly or find they like it subconsciously or get jaded and settle in. To add more examples, teachers, power over students, nurses, over their patients, managers, instead of working with products / customers, they control employees, local politicians, POA board members, club leaders. I used to run a hotel many years ago and dealt with the public a lot. In my experience, the second biggest group of Ahalas was doctors. The biggest group of assholes, and by an extremely large margin, was doctors' wives. Absolutely insufferable. Stockbroking. PR. Fluffers. Oh, you meant figuratively. Well then, don't mind me. Police officers. Prison guards. Prison guards are like cops, but with even less training / qualifications and an even stronger union. Have virtually no equipment other than cuffs and a radio, and deal with the worst of the worst. Not to mention they are significantly more at risk of injury than police are, and work longer hours. At least a cop gets to deal with a human having a bad day once in a while. A prison guard's entire job is dealing with those society has deemed not fit for public. Sales. Always sales. Hollywood. I think you mean the film industry in general. It's not all Hollywood and you get the full range of personalities everywhere. Nightclub staff. This is the only one I'll say that is 100% the fault of customers. People are shitbags when they are drinking. I bartended and did a short stint at a club. Had 6 drinks thrown on me and was spit on 3 times in 3 weeks. I was told I was lucky to not have a GL bid thrown at me yet and to just get used to it. I left the next week. I had a big response written out. But lem just say I can empathize with club staff. Nobody ever sees what the jerks do to elicit getting kicked out. They just assume that staff pick people at random to rough up and kick out just because. Nope. Cameras everywhere. Cops, rightfully so will charge staff if they done fucked up. And most staff just want to get the shift over with and go home like at any job. Collection agents. It's basically in the job description. Have an old high school friend who excels in this career field. As an adult, I'm not surprised. Dude was brutal, but generally fair. Finance. Every douchebag I went to high school with went into finance. Some nice people too, but every douchebag. Politics. Fortune 500 businesses. Depends on the business. You can meet some of the most friendly and relaxed people in those larger companies. I think the worst are mid-sized ones. Reality show celebrities. Investment bankers. Military folks are mostly turds. Yes, I'm a veteran. Never met anyone in ours worth a damn either. Jerk store franchisee. Hotel catering in terms of the staff. Retail in terms of anyone. Comedians. Social influencers. Biggest bunch of twatism to come out of my generation. Trucking management. Stockbrokers and realtors. Agree about realtors. I know there have to be some good people that are realtors, but I swear, I have yet to meet a trustworthy one. On top of that, every single person I knew from school who ended up becoming a realtor was shady as fuck. Recruiters. Chefs. I'm one myself. I have been learning from the older jerks to be who I'm now. Most of us think that only by screaming the worst insults we can get the job done correctly and on time by the minute. Also, the amount of overtime, alcohol, drug and more alcohol doesn't help. Every day I tried my best to tune it down and change to be a better person in the kitchen, outside of the kitchen, while having a beer together. We are totally different though. Fitness. The military, aviation, medicine, surgeons. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.